Hi everyone, I'm Ines. Today I'm going to talk about the classroom norms for middle school students. During the first class, the student and the middle school student, the teacher and the middle school students can create the classroom rules together and ask students for feedback and what reward they're interested in. The teacher can also have students write down their promises as well and ask students to share their promises with the whole class. For example, the students might write something like, "I promise that I promise that I'm not going to write anything on the desk," or I promise that I'm going to follow the instructions the teacher gives in class," something like that. And the teacher can provide suggestions for students to follow, such as the first one is no offensive language, and students have to respect each other during the class. And they have to come. They have to come to class being prepared. They have to bring their pencil and papers with them for each day, and they have to be supportive when working in groups. And they have to embrace their mistakes, and they have to also learn from their mistakes as well. In addition, we need to mention what happens if the students break the rules. We can have students brainstorm the punishment together as a whole class and ask them to vote for their personal choice. Also, I'll remind students that as long as they break the rules, they have to accept the punishment without any complaint because that is their choice. And the pros of making the classroom together can empower the student, and they might be more likely to follow the rules they created with each other. However, for the cons, the teacher has to spare more effort to monitor students while they're brainstorming the rules in case students come up with something out of the track. In my case, because I will be teaching an ESL classroom, so it depends on students' English proficiency level to proceed this norm activity. If students' English proficiency are not fluent enough, then I will tell them the rules directly instead of having them to proceed this activity. And so I think it really depends on students' English proficiency. If I get students to do this rule-making activity by themselves, they might be like overwhelmed or like they don't know what's happening. So I think this really depends on students' English proficiency as well.
Classroom, there are weekly volunteer classroom helpers, purposeful hand gestures, voice chart, and classroom rules. On the voice chart, students use zero voice to pay attention and listen. Therefore, when a hand gesture shows zero, it means zero voice, please. Now you're looking at a picture of students making zero voice hand gesture because they saw their teacher make the hand gesture first. When we all make this gesture, basically no one speaks and it all goes quiet in the classroom. At that moment, the teacher has the students' attention.
Will barricade the door with desks, while the rest are grabbing something to throw in case an intruder got in the room. A fire drill, you'd go down different stairway escapes to ensure that you're not following the same one every single time. So a few other procedures that a teacher may use in the classroom is letting their students know where the lost and found bin is and how to use it, when it's appropriate, etc. Our restroom breaks, our school uses a little pass system. Each teacher has a different color that they use. Each quarter is different, so that way students have a minimum of how much they're going to the bathroom as they get that 4-minute passing period. The nurse, we want to make sure they're going to the nurse for good reasons. Good reasons being not making something up just to get out of class because they didn't feel like being there that day. And then there's that timeout signal. Our school uses the universal one that means to be quiet, and students do it back to you. And finally, to make sure that you're teaching your procedures correctly to your students, you're going to explain, rehearse, and repeat them. So let's say your students didn't come into the classroom the right way. For me, I'd have them, they're not supposed to come in talking, they should start their journal right away. So if they didn't do that, I'd have them go back out into the hall, line up quietly, and we would all shake hands again and enter the classroom the right way. The repetitiveness is what reinforces your rules and your procedures and your expectations and helps have a self-managing classroom.
Okay.
Hey guys, how are you? Today I will be talking about setting high expectations in the classroom. I work as a middle school teacher for students who receive learning center support. And usually we know that middle school students are in a weird age and they're not sure of who they are, what they can accomplish, what are their goals. But specifically, students who have a learning disability struggle even more with that. They come from receiving a lot of support and believing that they are not able to accomplish things on their own. In my case, it is more difficult to set high expectations with them because they usually have low self-esteem. What I like to do with them is to empower them to get to know who they really are, what their strengths are, and what their limitations, or let's not say limitations, their needs or areas for improvement are. Once they know who they are and they know why, they understand how the brain works and how is the brain working like that and how that is affecting their performance in class. Then students start understanding that it's not that they're stupid, it's because they have a slow processing disorder and they need extra time to do the same thing that the others are doing. So they understand what they can expect from themselves. After they have that, they also work with their IEPs to understand what their goals are. And this year, actually, they wrote their own IEP goals. And they share this information with teachers. So teachers know their accommodations and their specific needs and strengths. In this case, students know what they can give, and after they are empowered, I would say it is our time to take the risk and to believe in them and to motivate them to aim for the stars. And usually kids surprise you. Usually other teachers or parents or the same students say, I'm not able to do this, but when you believe in them and you support them in a very personal way, they show amazing things. So I would say it's about attitude and about communicating that you really believe in them. And of course, maybe you have a students who physically or in their characteristics they cannot do something, but there are always ways to establish realistic but goals with high expectations. So I would say, can we keep these norms uniform or these expectations uniforms? Yes, we can keep a uniform philosophy, but it is important that we are individualized and we personalize our relationship with kids when we set expectations, because each one of them is an individual. Also, that we co-create these expectations first with the whole class and then with the students, so it's real to them and it means something. And finally, that when we're setting goals, we introduce the SMART goal strategy that I will share in a YouTube video, where goals are specific, measurable, accurate. They're realistic goals for them to accomplish. And if you ask me, what are the cons and pros about breaking away from this co-plan, I would say, well, flexibility is always important. You might have a student who needs something different. You might have a situation that needs extra or a different approach, and that's okay. But at the same time, we need to be consistent as teachers and staff and parents, because we don't want our students to get confused and have one teacher who is having high expectations and other teachers who are treating them as they are not able to complete anything by their own. So I would say be consistent, but mostly believing in your students and letting them know. Thank you.
Kroos will go for it and score! An inspirational moment.
Ask yourself what you want to accomplish, and most importantly, why. M. Make it measurable. Are you able to tell when you've reached your goal? A. Attainable. Goals should stretch you so you feel excited, but within your current ability. R. Relevant. Set goals that are going to positively impact your life. Does this goal fit in with your other life's goals and dreams? T. Time-based. A goal with a time deadline will create a sense of urgency and give you the energy you need to complete it. Finally, once you achieve your goal, it's time to celebrate and set the next goal.
In order to carve in these link turns, you're going to see AJ moving along the length of the ski from one turn to the next. So he's moving more on that fore-aft plane.
Just like AJ skiing perfect carved turns, for that to happen, you need patience, direction, mobility, and an understanding of dynamics. In other words, for transitions to be effective and fluent, you have to have practice and practice and practice. Whether you're in school or on the hill, transitioning from one activity or a body movement in another is one and the same. Transitions include all those times when teachers ask students to form groups within the class, as well as the short amount of time that is required by the students to end one activity and prepare for the beginning of another. So smooth transitions save time, stress when it is done flawlessly, and allows for a better learning environment. It's also during this time that if transitions are rough and ready, then student behavior can become a challenge. All classrooms begin and end with a transition, no matter what, how small it is. The transitions then themselves are many and varied and can include entering and leaving the classroom, moving from one part of the room to another, or cleaning and packing up for the rest of the day. The main thing to remember is that they need to be followed in a preset manner, and that's the big key there, and making them consistent and practical on a daily basis, which needs proper training and development. And that is the key. So think ahead and pre-plan. Be consistent in your routines. Train the students to develop a habit and expect good behavior and modeling, good examples. It's a simple guideline that takes work and lots of practice, but it will lead to a smooth transition every time for the teachers.
Classroom transitions can be a source of frustration and difficulty for both the student and the teacher. Essentially, transitions are the period of time when the teacher moves the class from one activity to another. At the secondary level, a teacher may need to move her class from a small group discussion activity to a whole group lecture. At the elementary level, the teacher may need to move his class from a math lesson to the next science experiment.